Welcome to the Real Film Geeks. I'm Addison Lee.
And I'm Zebedee.
I know it's been a while since we've been on mic, and just a lot of things have been going on in both of our lives. But we're back. It's Star Wars week, and
Let's talk about some Star Wars.
exactly, because Episode 8, The Last Jedi, is coming out this Thursday. Well, it's premiering Thursday, officially coming out on Friday.
Right. Then the pre-premiere was in LA a couple days ago. If not, was it yesterday? It was yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
And did you hear about John Boyega?
No, what happened?
He got stranded in Georgia.
Really?
Yeah, because of the snow.
Oh wow!
I didn't read if he made it there or not, but as of like noon yesterday, he was on Twitter and stuff like that, going like, "I need a pilot."
And then Poe just comes out of nowhere like, I can fly anything.
I can fly anything. It gets in a Boeing, flies.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah. So Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars. So I think the way we're going to do this episode is just that we are literally just going to ramble about the prequels, the original trilogy, and then Episode 7, Rogue One, and kind of what we're expecting from The Last Jedi, and maybe to feature on like the Han Solo movie, because we talked about that a few times.
And also their plans for a new trilogy.
Oh right, helmed by Rian Johnson, who's directing The Last Jedi.
Yep.
So yeah, let's just start at the beginning. So we go Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Oh man.
1999.
So when I saw that, I had already seen 4, 5, and 6. I was like, what, 8 years old? Maybe?
Oh yeah, we both. Oh yeah, we
were both pretty little. But my parents had already shown us 4, 5, and 6 like a dozen times at least, because my older brothers would watch it all the time, and I'd watch it with them.
And our grandmother had it all recorded
VHS.
from HBO.
And I remember being so freaking excited for it. And actually, as an 8-year-old, I loved it. I was like, man, there's Star Wars shooting stuff, and then lightsaber fights, and there's that dude with the freaking double lightsaber. Yeah, this is great. And I even remember maybe a couple years after that, not even, there was a PC Star Wars game that was The Phantom Menace, and my brothers and I had the demo for it. And the demo was just when they're in that beginning area on that space station, and the droideka come and like shoot at him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My brothers and I could never get more than a minute into that game without dying because the poison gas enters the room. We just didn't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
So we just died.
When I was a kid, a lot of things scared me. Hooded figures. Mostly just hooded figures. I have
hooded figures.
Yeah.
Hooded figures. Hooded figures.
Seriously though, I remember I watched the first Harry Potter movie, and that scene in the Dark Forest when you see Voldemort.
Oh man,
dude! I leaned over to my dad. I was like, "Can you take me home? I'm like, I want to go home. I don't want to be here."
Oh my god.
So, anyways, when I first saw Darth Maul, he scared me because we were raised Catholic, and he looked like the devil. The devil had a double-sided lightsaber. That's terrifying. And then when you watch the movie, oh yeah, by the way, spoilers, I guess, for Star Wars.
Star Wars Episode 1, yeah.
And all of them. The devil stabs Jesus in the chest. Like, if you look at Qui-Gon, looks very much like
Space Jesus. No.
He stabbed Jesus, and that is, once again, terrifying. So, I watched it a little later, before Episode 2 came out, obviously. And I, as a kid, loved it too. Because when I thought about it, the only thing I could think about was the pod racing scene, and that's because we had the pod racing game for the
Nintendo 64.
Yeah, Nintendo 64.
And whenever we go to Chuck E. Cheese's, they'd have the pod racing arcade.
Yes.
There.
Oh my!
We got to sit inside the freaking pod and race it.
Oh my God.
Man,
it was so cool. And then of course the final fight.
Right.
Did not think about anything else in that movie.
Nope.
Then watching it again as an adult, you're like, this isn't good. Like, it's just not good.
Hot garbage.
Yeah, like I have to look at the time, so I don't judge CGI on time.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, the CGI wasn't great, but whatever. It was what the CGI was doing. I was kind of like,
oh,
Jar Jar, Gungans. And it's kind of like, man, what if Jar Jar was like the other general guy? Like, what if that's who found Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon?
Oh, the one that was always like riding the
Yeah,
weird little
yeah.
horse things. and
Like,
he
what
was a gray looking.
Yeah, like what if we got the badass Gungan that found him? Like, it changes the movie a little bit.
So much.
Yeah. So yeah, like that's kind of like, we were too young to be, care about premieres and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard a lot of people talk about like how they were excited to how excited they were. They stayed in line. They stood in line for like 2 or 3 days just to be the first ones in there and see the movie. I was listening to a YouTube channel where they talked about this guy who worked for a graphics company, and every day on their lunch, him and these other people, they would go to the movie theater next door and watch I can't remember what movie it was, but it showed the Phantom Menace trailer.
The trailer. Oh no.
So they would go see this movie, not see the movie, but just watch the trailer
because they just get more and more hype for the
because the internet wasn't what it is now, where you could just you could watch anything at any time. So they would just keep going to watch the trailer, and then when the movie came out, they're like, "What?
What have we done?"
But there are some people who had the Star Wars goggles on. Like they're just like, "This is the best movie ever."
Right.
Cut the 2 weeks and like, I've seen this movie 5 times and it's not good.
Not really.
So yeah, we were kind of there for Phantom Menace, but I feel like my brain was really fully developed when it came around.
Yeah, we were still definitely like loving it.
Oh yeah.
Like, I know that I was just in it for the lightsaber fights, and honestly, Duel of Fates was freaking awesome.
Oh, it's still still one of the best scores.
It's a really great score. The entire scene was just like actually very well paced.
Yeah, and the best thing about it is that there's no talking. Because usually when you see these scenes, there's always some kind of like, "Oh, you won't beat me," blah blah. Just
like taunting or
banter, just whatever.
Yeah.
Silence, and I think that's what made that scene so much more intense was the fact that no one said a word. No one's just like, "Master Qui-Gon, he's a Sith. You were right. The Sith are back." Like there was none of that. It was just like,
and that's one of the biggest things though that like you have to realize about that scene too. It's the first time Jedi have fought a Sith in like centuries.
Yeah.
Like they're the first Jedi to fight a Sith in ages, and they actually kill him even though they lose one of them.
Yeah. And the council didn't believe him at first. Like they were just like, "The Sith have been gone for centuries." Blah blah blah. And it's like, nah, dude had a red lightsaber. I'm pretty sure.
Just not that guy.
And then when you find out like the new mythology behind the kyber crystals, and how like now how
you get a red lightsaber,
and it's supposed to be tainted. It's supposed to be a regular crystal that was just tainted by
its master's death, essentially.
Yeah,
you get a Jedi, take their lightsaber and kill them.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh, he just had a red lightsaber. It's like, no, he's done some stuff to get that.
He's killed some people to get that.
And yeah, just all around, sometimes I try to watch. I go back and watch it sometimes to see like, okay, maybe there's something good in there that people are just not letting it be.
Yeah, like it's like something good that is overlooked because of how much hate is drawn to the movie from other places. But honestly, there's very little. I mean, Duel of Fates, obviously. That scene is actually pretty dang good. But, like, the rest of the movie, it's all over the place. You got 3 separate storylines following 3 separate characters. There's no real main character to the movie. It's incoherent at times. There are characters that should just never have been, Jar Jar. And it just kind of goes off the rails.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of the complaints about the Trade Federation being, bad stereotypes of Asian people. And,
I know.
Yeah, like,
whoa.
Yeah, them. You have the Gungans being poor representations of blacks.
Black people, pretty much. It's like a minstrel show.
Oh yeah, it's
pretty weird. It just didn't fly over very well at all.
Yeah, really, like I said earlier, when I think of Phantom Menace, I honestly only think of the pod racing and the Darth Maul fight. That's really all I think about.
Because the pod racing was actually pretty cool.
Oh yeah, like it was a fun scene to watch. It was a fun game. Like I'm kind of surprised they didn't do more with the pod racing because I feel like they kind of struck gold with that.
Yeah, and also to me it also kind of like fleshed out the society of Tatooine a little bit, because what is Tatooine? So it's a rundown backwater planet where everyone on that planet basically has to be either a bounty hunter, a thief, or really good at taking scrap and turning it into something.
Scum in general.
Yeah. And so like if you're not scum, you're a scrapper or you're a slave.
Or you're you work on a moisture farm.
Yeah, basically.
Because that's what I mean. Again, we have to think about the budget. But in episode 4, there was the farm, and then there was Mos Eisley. Because I believe Luke mentioned another area.
Well, he's talking about going to Tashi Station, which is in Mos Eisley.
Okay, because I thought he said like, I can take you as far as so I could take you here or there. So I think he might have mentioned one other place.
There might be. I mean, Tatooine's a pretty large planet. There's probably other places on it, but like just none that we really see, because it's like settlements that no one goes to because those are just homes.
Yeah.
And the little towns and stuff like that, like Mos Eisley.
Right.
And Mos Eisley it's not a city. You could like basically isn't it it's either in episode 4 or another one where you actually just see the entirety of Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
And it's not a city.
No,
there's nothing.
It's really just it's like a giant airport town. Like people, they just come in, get out. It's pretty much it's a airport mixed in with the black market.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. So moving on from the Phantom Menace, obviously you go right into episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Very confusing title because
the clones aren't attacking
anything
really. Like I mean, they fight the Geonosians, so yes, they attack something, but
they show up at the very end of the movie.
Like, why didn't they just call it the Clone Wars?
I don't know. It's just really just bad title. Same with honestly, let's talk about all the titles. Phantom Menace was also a really bad title.
Yeah, because the whole idea of Phantom is a ghost or specter, some dark evil entity that is unseen, and then a menace is a threat. So
the Warner siblings, they're a menace. Like Dennis the Menace was a menace. I don't want to compare Dennis the Menace with Darth Maul, because that's
yeah, and like the threat definitely shows its colors in this film. So like I don't know. Honestly, I think that Lucas is just going like, what's the kind of title that'll get those kids to really want to come and see this movie? Well, let's call it Phantom Menace. George, maybe we should call it something like something that has to do with the beginning of the story.
Who said that? Oh, I'm sorry. Are you George Lucas?
Are you George?
No. Shut up. I feel like he just went on like Seventh Sanctum and just like just a generator title.
Oh my god!
I do imagine like, oh, are you George Lucas? No. Oh, okay.
You can get out. Are you on my payroll?
Yeah.
Well, you're not anymore.
Oh my god! Oh, I want that. Okay, so Attack of the Clones. It's a time skip because
it's like 7 years.
Yeah, because they meet Anakin in the Phantom Menace as a young boy.
He's 10, I think.
Which is probably the coolest poster.
Yeah, when he's standing there and his shadow is Darth Vader.
Yeah, that was like a really, really cool poster. And, man, I feel bad for that kid.
Yeah, no, he got his life ruined.
Like,
it's like the dude that played Joffrey Baratheon in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
He would just, like, go out and do stuff, and people would just, like, be so mean to him because of the character he plays. And it's like, guys.
And he's actually like a great person.
He's a good kid.
Like, he actually does a lot of charities too. So it's like,
that's one thing I cannot understand is it's like, just separate the actor from the character they play for like 1 second. Like,
yeah.
Like, I would, if I ever met that kid, I'd run up to him and be like, dude, I hated you so much in that show. You're so good at what you do.
Yeah, like you made me hate you.
You made me hate you, this random stranger.
That's the same thing with the guy who played the governor in Walking Dead. Like the same thing. People like yelled at him. It's
why?
Like, yo, chill. Like, look at the people who play good people in movies. They're the ones who are actually like pieces of shit in real life.
I know, except for Tom Hanks.
Well, yeah. Well, Tom Hanks is like is America's uncle.
Yeah.
Like he comes over for Thanksgiving and everyone's just like, Uncle Tom! Yeah. And then he's gone. Just like that. Um, so yeah, Attack of the Clones, time jump. Anakin is grown. Obi-Wan is taken over as his master, and once again, I feel bad for Hayden Christensen, who played Anakin, because he was not directed.
Yeah, and he also, oh my God, Anakin had the worst lines in
Yeah.
2 and 3. Like, I hate sand.
It's
coarse
coarse
and gritty
and
and
gets
gets
every-
everywhere. It's like, what?
It's like sand. Sand. Like, oh my God.
There's a bunch of funny stuff. Like, why did Darth Vader not go down to Tatooine in Episode 4? Because he hates sand.
Yeah. He's like,
why didn't Darth Vader go down onto Scarif in Rogue One? Because he hates sand.
which, when you think about it, it's like, that makes sense. Like, like, I hate how much that makes sense. Like, wow, his hate for sand really just crosses over generations.
Right?
Now, when we watched Episode 2, we were in the third or fourth grade.
Yeah.
Because I remember it came out the same time as the first Spider-Man. So that was like
Oh, yeah.
2002, I think. And I remember getting into arguments with people over what was better, Episode 2 or the original Spider-Man. Now, remember, we weren't critics.
Right.
We were third graders.
It didn't have any like film history or
No.
or your film theory degrees at that point.
These were kids who were arguing what was funnier, seeing Yoda fight with a lightsaber,
Oh man.
or the scene when what's his name, Tobey Maguire was trying to shoot his web.
Oh god.
You know,
yeah.
Fly or whatever.
It does the bulls. Symbol.
Yeah, and just all the different go web, whatever. So that was the argument I kept having in that class, was just like, no, Yoda fighting with lightsaber. Because I remember I was laughing when that scene happened, because he did this like,
Because he like spins around and goes.
like I remember
God.
cracking up in the theater. I think I saw it like twice with my dad, because I was just like, this is the greatest thing ever. And also, this was one of the introductions to, for me as a person of color, feeling like I could be in these sci-fi movies because of Mace Windu.
Yeah.
And Mace Windu wasn't like, look, Lando was cool, but Lando was also kind of a shithead, because he turned him over and then helped him.
Right.
And then took Han's look,
He
Lando's
took
complex.
Han's clothes. He's so all over the place.
He's a complex character. But Mace Windu, on the other hand, was a badass from beginning to end. Like, the scene that gives me chills every time is when he shows up at the Coliseum and pulls out the purple lightsaber,
and
it's just
all
like,
of the other Jedi in the background is
dude,
boom.
look, even more than Phantom Menace, this movie's garbage. This movie's just not good. But that scene when all the lightsabers light up, man,
Yeah, getting to see all of the Jedi in action is pretty awesome.
it was pretty cool, and then seeing them all charging.
Right, because if you're from like the generation that saw 4, 5, and 6 before 1, 2, and 3, you always go like, man, they always talk about the Jedi in their prime. Wonder what that was like. Must have been pretty cool. And then in Episode 2, you actually get to see all of the Jedi.
And this is not even their
fight.
prime.
And that's
yet.
not even their prime. Like
Old Republic's their prime.
Yeah,
Like,
this is hundreds of years after the Jedi were actually strong.
and you also have to think, like, a lot of them were probably soft too. Like, this is a generation that did not have to deal with
war that much.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
they didn't have to deal with the Mandalorians, because that war happened like 100-something years,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Sith War, it happened way even further back. So this generation
like,
of Jedi were kind of soft.
They're so soft. They sent one of their most elite masters to deal with trade negotiations.
Yeah, and then if you also think about it, that army of Jedi became like a handful after that fight with the droids. Like it whittled down.
Yeah.
So yeah, they weren't at a lot of them were strong, but they weren't at like the prime.
Right.
Because when I think of their prime, I think of that scene for the Old Republic when the Sith ship like crashes into the temple, and then all the Sith appear, and that's where I imagine their prime being. So yeah, Attack of the Clones was just a mess. Like I remember there's that scene on the conveyor belt with Padme. Literally, that was just what George Lucas thought of when he was driving to set.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't in the script.
That and R2D2 like jet boosters. Like why?
I think that's the big question of this trilogy.
Why does he never use them again? Well, he uses them in 3. But
Yeah.
like why he never uses them in like 4, 5, and 6? Almost like he doesn't have them or something.
Because he didn't. Because he was old. Those years like
they rusted shut.
Yeah,
He can't access them anymore.
That's my guess.
Head canon. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, the conveyor belt scene. Lucas was driving to set and was just like, "Hey guys, I have an idea. So, Padme or Natalie, you're going to run on this, and we're going to hold balls that have the blue, and we're going to poke you with them while you run." She's like, "Wait, what?" Like literally, there's actually footage of hers being like, "This was a interesting scene that Lucas came up with the day of shooting."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because remember, episode 1, 2, and 3 were shot in a maybe 50-foot by 50-foot square box.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing but green screen.
Yeah. It was blue screen.
Or blue screen,
yeah, whichever one. But it's just kind of funny, like, because you see her running on the thing, and just people holding like sticks with the blue tape around it, just like.
And she's just dodging them, and it's like, God dang it!
It's like you created a masterpiece.
How the mighty fall.
Oh, like. See, it's funny. They fall into Scrooge McDuck's vault of money. Like,
I know though, because I know I paid money to see each of those movies like 2 or 3 times, and it's one of those things where like this also happens like video games. You'll see like a dude that has like 200 hours in on this video game, and his review for it is like, "This video game sucks. I hated it." It's like, then why did you put 200 hours into it? You just like.
And then a month later, you're gonna have the DSL or
DLC. Yeah,
DLCs.
you buy the DLC and just go, "I hate this DLC." Then why did you buy it?
Just give up.
Stop. But yeah, no, that's basically it. It's just like nerds get trapped into this like horrible recursive loop where we get hyped for something, buy it, enjoy it, and then realize that we shouldn't be enjoying it because it's bad, and then we get angry. But then the next. By that time, the next one's coming out, and so we get hyped all over again to buy it.
And then we take it out on the wrong films, like John Carter, where we don't see.
John Carter was actually really good.
We don't see that one. We don't see Dread because we're like, oh, well, we've been burned by these movies like that before. It's like, no. This is not the movie that burns you. Like, go watch that one.
It's so good.
So yeah, and once again, with ObiWan, you have Ewan McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
Ewan. Yeah, Ewan McGregor, who is pretty much the light in this like weird dark trilogy because he's the only one who seems like one is having just fun being the character.
Right.
Because I remember in jumping back to Phantom Menace, they had to do a lot of reshoots because every time he swung the lightsaber, he would make sound effects. He kept going,
oh my god, whoom, whoom.
Like I want to know how much money had to go back into either editing out his voice or just reshooting in general.
And that's interesting. Thinking about that, Obi-Wan, except for one point, is the most accurately depicted character in 1, 2, and 3, according to what he talks about, like his history from 4, because he talks about what he did, who he was when he was back then in 4 and 5. And except for Master Yoda actually being his master, not Qui-Gon, but I guess that like you could still get away with it because after Qui-Gon left, Yoda's still like the master essentially.
And then you can say like, well, when you have a master and a Padawan, they're more of just like a babysitter, whereas in Yoda trains all the kids and then passes them on, and then
right. But Obi-Wan joined the Jedi Order later in his life. He wasn't a kid. He wasn't, because remember in episode 5, Yoda, he's like, I'm not going to train Luke, because he's like, too old to begin the training. And then Obi-Wan goes, so was I, if you can remember.
No, he said he was like, I think that's when he said he was like rash and full of like too much energy or whatever. I think he said, I know I have to look it up again, but yeah. So McGregor was kind of like the best part of 1, 2, and 3, just because one, his voice was so soothing as Obi-Wan, and yeah, he was just a lot of fun. And you question how 19 years or 19 years just ages someone, like how you're full brown locks.
Oh, I know, right?
Obi-Wan to or Ian McGregor to gray falling apart. Oh my gosh.
Sir, what's his name? I knew his name, and now that we are trying to remember his name, I can't remember his name.
I don't know why I want to say Ian McKellen, but that's so far. That's so wrong.
Very wrong. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah. No. That's one of the things actually that I read a bunch of like fan fiction or fan theory stuff, and some of it was like, they should have written episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Alec Guinness,
yeah. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 should have taken place another 10 years before they did.
Yeah.
Like at least 10 years before they did. And there was talk of like episode 1 shouldn't have been young Anakin. It should have been him when he's like 20 or so.
Yeah.
And then episode 2 is like Anakin when he's like maybe 25. And then episode 3 is he's 30. And he actually starts his family when he like in episode 2, like he like actually marries Padme or whoever his wife is then, but not at the very end. Like it's something that's already established, and like he's like really good friends with Obi-Wan from the beginning, as in like they've been friends for like 10 years.
Yeah, not a mentorship kind of thing.
Yeah, because that's one of the big things is like and some of the better reviews for episodes 1, 2, and 3 that I've listened to and read talk about how supposedly Anakin and Obi-Wan are really good friends. Like,
right.
They're always hanging out with each other for obvious reasons, and they're always like saving each other's butts and stuff like that. But like in the 1, 2, and 3, they hate each other. They can't stand talking to each other all the time. It's so hard to like interact for their interactions.
Well,
there's like one spot. There's one section where they seem like genuine friends. Is when Obi-Wan is talking to Anakin about like saving his butt or something like that, and then Anakin's just like, "Yeah, like that time I saved you from the whatever that was," and then Obi-Wan's like, "Oh well, fine, I owe you 2. I owe you twice for saving my life or something like that," and they laugh about it. And it's like, bam,
yeah,
that establishes that they do have like a friendship.
That was the elevator scene. Yeah,
the elevator scene was great, but they never go back to anything like that. And like Anakin is always going off whenever Obi-Wan tells him not to. Anakin is always like not trusting Obi-Wan. Like they don't seem like good friends, even though they should be, because they've been hanging out for like 10 years.
Right, and you kind of want to know more about. Oh Lord!
Don't die, Addison. Good Lord.
Ooh. My last will and testament. But yeah, there you do want to know more about these adventures that they're having, because like just in that elevator scene, they explain a whole movie that I'd rather see than actual Attack of the Clones. Like,
sure.
Remember that time you got caught in there? You remember the time you did this?
Right.
And I'm like, can we flash back to that?
Right. And actually, to give credit where it's due, the Clone Wars TV show actually does that. Like the Obi-Wan and Anakin we get in the Clone Wars is totally different than the ones that we get in Attack of the Clones. Like they're actually how we imagine these characters being.
You buy what he says in episode 4 when he's like he was a good friend.
Yeah, and I know they're canon, so technically this stuff did happen. But like, why didn't we get those Anakin or that Anakin and Obi-Wan in episodes 2 and 3? Like because those are the high end, huge production value movies. Why didn't we get the good characters in those? Like the good character writing and storytelling.
The world may never know. But no, I completely agree with you. Like the relationship you buy in Clone Wars, and maybe it's because it's not. They made sure like they kind of made Obi-Wan look like Ian McGregor. But they made Anakin not look anything like Hayden Christensen. So you kind of have like that disconnect of like, this is just a completely different person. And yeah, especially when they introduce Ahsoka being kind of like the actual kid element, which I think they were trying to bring in with Anakin in Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones,
but he
which did not work. It did not work.
Okay, in Phantom Menace he acts like a kid, but in
now this is pod racing.
I'll do a. Wait, what does he say? I'll spin. That's a neat trick.
Whoa! Oh my god, I remember that. That's a neat trick. Whoa!
God.
And then just like the poor man's assault on the Trade Federation base and set like, man, that I'm thinking about it. That's bad.
It's pretty bad.
It's literally just a straight up copy of the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah.
Like I love that people want to complain like, you know, at least the prequels did something original. It's like no, that what's it called?
Episode 1 was so bad.
It was really bad. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about the other episodes. I mean, so we've gone through episode 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Also, okay, so I'm gonna say one thing about episode 2, and then we're gonna move on to episode 3, unless you have some more to say about it.
Yeah, I got something to say. Unless what you're gonna say is what I'm gonna say.
So this is something I talk about episode 2 every single time it's brought up. The Yoda versus Dooku fight. So I don't think Yoda should have had a lightsaber ever, and this is my reasoning. I think that. I mean, okay, maybe he could have had a lightsaber, but just never use it.
Yeah.
Because the Jedi's main weapon is the Force. It's not their lightsaber. And Yoda even talks about this when he's training Luke. It's just like, you know, the Force is what makes up everything, you know? And we all come to understand that Yoda's greatest power is his mastery over it, and being able to just lift and pick up random things and just do great things. Like, you know that the Force Unleashed game where that kid just pulls down a Star Destroyer? That's what I imagine Yoda doing. Like, that's how powerful and in tune he is with the Force. And so when he fights Dooku,
I'm sorry. I just imagine like the commander on the Star Destroyer, like, what's pulling us down?
A little green.
Enhance that image. Is that a Muppet? Is that a little green Muppet? Did we just pull down by Kermit the Frog?
Oh no!
Oh god, that's hilarious. Man. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. So when Dooku reveals himself and like, you know, fights and just trashes Obi-Wan and Anakin, and then Yoda comes up, it would have been so much cooler if Dooku puts away his lightsaber and just stares down Yoda, and Yoda just sits there sitting on his cane staring at him, and then suddenly the world around them starts to rumble, and Anakin and Obi-Wan are like, what is going on? And then the cave that they're in starts like falling apart, and then Dooku tries, like, using the Force obviously, tries to throw like rocks at Yoda, and then Yoda just like bats them away, and then like you can see the strain on Dooku's face as whatever is happening is just coming down on him, and then he tries to throw rocks at Obi-Wan and Anakin, and Yoda like stops for a second, tries to catch them, and then that's when Dooku runs away, proving that, you know, Yoda is the master of the Force. You know,
that is how that started. That is how that fight started. But then that's when Dooku's like, well, obviously this has to be done by the test of our skills of our lightsaber, and that's when, because he does put away his lightsaber, and they have a little Force battle, because that's when which, man, I remember watching that in the trailer when Dooku shoots the lightning, and Yoda just goes like this, like catches it in the Force and just goes, I think you dropped something, and then like pushes it back out. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then it cuts to the lightsaber. Why did they
take that to 11? Why did they just make Yoda the biggest badass when it comes to the Force? Like, because kids wanted to see him spin around and have a tiny lightsaber and fight Dooku going, Rah!
Maybe, I guess, because I mean, look, if they didn't show, like, because in the trailer all you see is him ignite his lightsaber. You don't know what he does. You just see him just light up. In the movie theater, not gonna lie, that scene was pretty just amazing, just because of like, whoa, hold on, the limping guy's gonna, like, because it's I think it was like a trope on those old like kung fu movies where you see like the old man shows up and then just like
and then just
like stands up straight. And you're
and
like,
then he just like beats the crud out of the bad guys.
Crap.
Yeah,
and it was kind of fun, just like kind of watching him literally crawl on walls. It's like, wait, like what is going on? You can't see Frank Oz doing. Frank Oz just like.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why I feel like it's a disservice almost to the character, because I just don't believe that Yoda should be going like that ham. Like,
right.
I feel like and also it was how they decided that the Force makes it so that you can suddenly like jump 20 feet and spin in a billion circles and all that fun stuff. And it's like, I'm sure the Force should allow you to be able to do some stuff like in a lightsaber fight. The Force gives you a bit of precognition in order to know what your opponent's next move is.
Yeah,
like I get that.
Which I know is one of the biggest arguments against the Darth Maul fight, because they said it's too choreographed, and I see it as they are predicting their moves. That's why it looks so choreographed, is because it's like, this is what happens when three masters of the Force, masters being loosely
a loose term,
because Obi-Wan was apprentice and so was Darth Maul, but people who know how to use the Force, all using, able to predict their moves. Mm-hmm. It's going to look choreographed. But back in episode 2, what I wanted to mention was Jango Fett.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you know anything about George Lucas is a fan of old samurai films.
Mm-hmm.
More specifically,
Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah, Akira Kurosawa films. Now, Akira Kurosawa did a film called Yojimbo.
Yep.
Which was then remade in America, not in America, in Italy, by Sergio Leone as
A Fistful of Dollars.
which was the main character was
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah,
The man
and
with
then
no name.
Going from there was another they did another film, another Western film called Django, and then that's kind of where Jango Fett came from. Sorry, I know that was a really stupid way of connection, but it was like that's from those samurai films to these westerns to now Star Wars. That's where Jango essentially came from, and that's why you see when Jango Fett shoots the gun, he does the like the gun twirl.
Yeah.
It was an homage back to Western films, and if you know where those Western films came from the samurai films, which influenced George Lucas to do films in general.
Which, to his credit, like, George Lucas is still a visionary and is still like a good
he's a good storyteller.
A good director, probably not.
I think we caught him in the time where he was George Lucas. Like,
yeah, he was like bigger than life. He can't fail, and no one told him no.
Exactly. So maybe if he kept his own hubris back from when he did the episode 4, maybe these 3 films would have been good. But I mean, when you look at your bank account on your phone, you're just like,
the money doesn't lie.
I'm set for life. Yeah. Like your head gets pretty big. So let's go from. So we said everything. Oh, but yeah, also with Jango Fett, the reason why I brought that up is because I know your favorite character
is Boba Fett.
Is Boba Fett, and we find out the origin of Boba Fett is that he was a clone from the cloning program that created the clone army.
But he's not degenerative. He doesn't.
Yep.
He ages normally.
Yeah.
So, because Jango wanted his son, but he's a bounty hunter and he's got stuff to do, so he can't settle down and have kids. So
exactly.
He just has a clone kid.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, and honestly, I don't think it's a bad backstory for Boba Fett at all.
No, it's interesting.
Because Jango is a Mandalorian, and so Boba Fett being a clone, but still holding so closely, to his Mandalorian heritage is interesting because he's a clone, so he wasn't like born. It's kind of hard to explain, but he's got to pick up on his heritage, almost like as an outsider because he wasn't born on Mandalore. He was born on whatever you call it,
Geonosis.
Not Geonosis.
No. It's that one weird planet that was erased.
Yeah, the for some reason I can't think of it right now, but the one that has all of the cloning on it.
Yeah.
And
the rain planet.
Yeah, and like he's raised by Jango like alone essentially, and has to learn how to be who he was destined to be, like Jango essentially.
And then grows up, and because you see him in the Clone Wars,
Yeah.
the animated series, he just hangs out with other bounty hunters. So he learns how to be a bounty hunter from bounty hunters.
Mm-hmm.
So very messed up childhood. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I know that's your favorite character. Now going into Revenge of the Sith. Interesting thing about Revenge of the Sith is that the title came from the original
Episode 6, which was Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah,
which is actually that was pretty neat naming convention.
Yeah,
I will give that one to George Lucas
because it was just like, we're gonna call it Revenge of the Jedi. Well, unfortunately, the revenge isn't the Jedi way. So
yeah, and there's only one Jedi left.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then they changed, because I think it was in theaters at first, right? When it, like, because I remember seeing footage of like there being
there was
a theater that said
Mhm.
Revenge of the Sith, and
yeah, there was a
Test
screening that was Revenge of the Jedi, and this is just like a little bit like trivial, but in one of my favorite video games, BioShock Infinite, it deals with alternate realities and alternate timelines, and one of them is a character opens a portal and it shows Paris in like 1980, and you can see a theater that has Revenge of the Jedi on the
wow,
on its thing. It's just
that's
like,
really cool.
oh, that's cool, because they were just like trying to show you like differentiating dimensions. So one of them actually did just keep Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Revenge of the Sith, actually of the prequel trilogy, is my favorite.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed it. It still wasn't
Up to par,
but it did a lot more correct than episodes 1 and 2 did.
Oh yeah.
The story was much more cohesive, even if some of the character writing was abysmal. I mean, Anakin is still just horribly written.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was trying to think like, well,
No.
no.
But this is what redeems episode 3 so much for me. Palpatine. Good Lord, Palpatine is freaking great in this movie, because he's just like having fun being evil.
Yeah, like you could, like, if you watch 1 and 2, you're just like, no, he can't be Palpatine. He lets it slip in this one. Like, he's just like, man, we've been at this for like 19 years. I don't care anymore. Yeah, I'm evil. All right.
Right.
I'm evil. Like, you know how I talk like this? Now my speech is going to this. It's just like, this is my real voice. Because it was just like, especially the scene, the one scene right when before he kills Dooku, he's just like, kill him. It's just like, because he's just like, oh, very good, Anakin. Kill him. It's like, wait, what? And Anakin's just like,
okay.
No, it's not like the president of the world just said kill him, but no, it's fine.
Right.
That's all in my mind. So, decapitation. But yeah, you're right. He hammed it up in good and bad ways. Other than the scene when Mace Windu has him cornered, he just goes, no. Like, I was like, okay. And, hey, just pointed it out. Mace Windu kicked Darth Sidious's ass.
He did.
He would have won. He had him pinned down. Which, side note, this is where my fan fiction came up, where Anakin and Mace Windu teamed up and killed Palpatine.
Right.
And they did what Mace Windu said was the Jedi were going to take over the Senate.
Right.
They do.
Which causes a fascist state, essentially.
Yeah, and then, but Obi-Wan and Yoda and some other Jedi leave because they're like, no, we're not supposed to be involved with the Senate. We're just here to protect. And Mace Windu's like, no, we have to take over. There's a split in the Jedi.
Right.
And this okay. Just real quick. So this is what happens. So after the Jedi take over, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and some other Jedi disappear. Anakin is like Mace Windu's right-hand man. They're working together. And then Padme has Luke and Leia. They're raising them, but then Padme sees that the Senate is it's too much. They're not evil, but there is not the way it's supposed to be. So Padme leaves, but takes Leia with her. Luke stays with Anakin, trains with him and Mace Windu. Padme takes Leia to go train with Obi-Wan and Yoda, and then 19 years later, they meet up on a planet and they have a fight, the lightsaber fight. So it's literally it's a Jedi Civil War.
Right.
That was my pitch for like a new episode 4.
That'd be pretty dope.
Like I like when I remember when I first wrote it, I was like, is this what it feels like when you like just create when you have creativity, just like. But anyway, sorry. Back to episode 3. As a kid, I could not watch this movie. It made me sad, especially when Mace Windu got killed, because I was just like,
you had to know everyone was gonna die.
oh yeah. And then someone, I can't remember who it was, but someone spoiled it to me. I was like, I'm not gonna watch this movie.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, someone told me that everyone died. Well, I mean, it's kind of obvious, especially when you watch episode 4, when like, yeah, he exterminated everyone.
Right.
And they did. And then you find out more about Executive Order
66.
Yeah, 66. That it wasn't just like an order; it was a program.
Literally,
they're like sleeper agents.
The clones all had chips in their brains that were, when Order 66 goes off, literally makes them see any Jedi as a traitor. It's not even. It's not just, oh, I gotta kill them now. It's, they're betraying us. We have to kill them right now.
And that also goes to probably one of the most, my favorite episode of the Clone Wars, where a clone, his thing goes off. Mm-hmm. Like he Order 66 goes off and he starts killing Jedi, and the clones are like why would you do that? And it's like this internal struggle of the clones realizing that something is wrong with them, and when that order is given, they're going to end up killing Jedi, and I think a few of them end up killing themselves. It's a really interesting, like, heart-wrenching episode. Mm-hmm. But back into but you're right. Revenge of the Sith is probably the better. I mean, if you look at it, it's like you said, it's a low bar, but it is the best prequel movie, just because, especially the opening space scene.
Yeah, honestly, that was actually really cool.
That was a really great scene.
To me, that one is actually one of the better opening credits of any of the movies, because it does not mess around. It literally goes, hey, this thing that's happening. Oh, here we go. And then immediately space battle. Granted, some of the space battle was kind of like meh. Like, honestly, the Jedi Starfighter stuff wasn't very good. And it was a bit cheesy. But, like, seeing it all happening was still pretty freaking cool. Mm. And the fact that, like, there was just, like, Trade Federation ships, separatist ships all over the place, and like on top of Coruscant, just fighting on top of Coruscant.
Yeah.
And then they like bust into the main ship, and it was actually pretty neat. I liked it.
Yeah. And then as their ships are sliding in, they both just leap out of the cockpit, just and just right into action. You're like, okay, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm still amazed that just 2 Jedi alone fought through an entire ship's worth of bad guys to get to the leaders.
Yeah. And then backtrack a little bit. It is canon, I think. I'm not sure, but the Clone Wars micro series.
Yeah.
That show, it was good. I liked it a lot. But what really made that show was the ending with Grievous. They made Grievous terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Like, he was truly like one of the most just terrifying villains, because there was this one episode where a lot of Jedi were trapped under this they were hiding in this hole or whatever, this abandoned building, and they hear the droid army, and then the droid army just stops, and then you just hear these metallic footsteps, and then you hear the voice of Grievous like, hey, you're all gonna die, just give up, die with honor, blah blah blah. And they're like, no, we won't. And then still quiet, and then you hear the footsteps, and then all hell breaks loose, and he just murders everyone. And then you see all the lightsabers that he's stolen. You're just like, this is so freaking cool.
Right.
And then another cool scene, but also kind of ruined it, is when, because the last episode leads into episode 3, is General Grievous kidnaps Senator Palpatine.
Right.
And before he leaves, Mace Windu crushes his lungs or chest, and that's why he's always like coughing and breathing hard. And then in the movie, it's all he does is he's just hunched over, breathing, like coughing. You're like, man, you were like terrifying in the cartoon. Like now you're
Right.
just whatever. And they try to give him that scene with Obi-Wan when he's fighting, but literally just like
I'm spinning.
yeah, he turns his
Woo.
hands into like
A whirlwind kind of thing.
yeah, and then Obi-Wan literally just goes like this, like it's like when you put a stick in a wheel.
Yeah,
And it's
just
like everything just falls apart. It's like, okay. And like two arms fly off. We're like, oh. We were waiting all this time for that?
Right.
Whatever. Let's see. What else happens in episode 3? Oh, Padme's pregnant.
Yep, and then
Dies
you're
from a
tearing
broken...
me apart.
Oh my... Literally. She dies from a broken heart.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all.
See, if they said like I think if they just left it at she lost the will to live, I wouldn't bat an eye. But they had to add the line, she died of a broken heart. It's like,
And also, where does she get the name Luke and Leia from?
she pulls it out of her
She just
ass.
pulls it out of her butt. No,
Oh my god, she really does. Like, she's like, boy, Luke, girl, Leia. Like, oh, were you just a fan of Star Wars and that's why?
Oh my god. No, it would have been so cool if like I don't know, like a cousin or brother or sister was named Luke and Leia, and they die or something like that
Yeah.
during the purge, and
Or
she
even-
names her children them after them or something like that.
Or even just some kind of reference to where those names came from.
Yeah.
It literally just came out of nowhere. Like, no thought. It was just like, before you die, what are you going to name these two? I like L names. So,
Luke and Leia. There we
Luke,
go.
Lucas, and Leia, whatever. I don't know. It was, it was just really...
She was just hopped up on drugs. It's just like
pretty much. It's just like, I'm dying of a broken heart on a bed that's floating while robots are taking care of me. And you can't fix a broken heart?
I know, right?
Like, are you kidding me? We got a Bacta tank. Just throw me in there. Like, Jesus. If Victor Fries can keep his wife alive, why can't you keep me alive? And they're in like the 70s or whatever.
Right. So here is a fun fan theory that I ascribe to, and I think you've probably heard it too. Anakin was so unconsciously in tune with the Force, he was accidentally like mind controlling Padme the entire time. So
And that's why she loved him.
yeah, so all of his like really horrible, awkward stuff in episode 2 was really horrible and awkward. Any normal girl would have been like, no. But
She was weak-minded.
yeah, evidently she's like weak-minded, and she was just getting mind controlled by him and not realizing it. No one realized it, even Anakin.
Ugh.
And then,
That's very rapey.
yeah, no, it's very.
No, very.
And then in episode 3, when he, but he betrays her by like force choking her when she had done nothing wrong. Her will to live and her heart breaks so hard because she's intensely forced to be in love with this person, and they throw them out into the gutter essentially, and she's essentially like suffering from like psychic withdrawal when she's on that bed giving birth to the children, and so like lack of force control kills her essentially.
I am so depressed. Like that
Like,
makes so much sense. I'm
she
just
is
like,
so
this is
tragic
sad.
because basically from the middle of episode 2 on, she is in not control of herself.
Yeah. There was someone did some art actually of for some whatever reason Vader goes to Naboo, and you see him inside of of Padme's tomb, and he's just standing there with his hand on her coffin or whatever, and you see like the stained glass image of her like over him, and it's just like, yeah, I'm crying. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
it's like
You did this.
yeah, and he's just like he still thinks about her or whatever. Yeah, like I see the reason why I loved these Star Wars movies is because there was always like the toys that came out, because man,
Oh man.
I had to get a new lightsaber like every movie, because me and my brother and you guys and your siblings, we would always fight until the lightsaber
Until
was
they
like
broke.
until like the plastic got turned white and they just kept bending.
Yep.
Because here's the funny thing. So when episode 3 came out, they started making their lightsabers with a stiffer plastic.
Right.
But my favorite lightsaber is the green Luke lightsaber. Like that's the one I have over in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, they never gave it the good plastic. They
So
gave it.
yours always broke.
Yeah, it was like the same cheap plastic from like episode 1. So like it was flimsy, and the moment you hit something, boom,
it just
you see it wrap around, and like, oh god. All right, so jumping from the prequels, we're going to the OGs, the originals. What made blockbusters a blockbuster? The original Star Wars trilogy, A New Hope. This movie essentially is the highest paid or highest grossing independent film ever.
Basically, yeah.
Because if you think about it, because usually when you think of Star Wars, you're like, oh yeah, this is a project that made $1 billion. It's like, no one wanted this. Like,
yeah, Fox was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. We'll just let you keep the rights to it because it's gonna flop. And Lucas is like, okay. And then
dumbasses.
And then it didn't.
Like
at all.
Like it's funny. Like I love watching the old footage because it's literally like for the Battle of Yavin, it's just grown men in a garage holding sticks with strings and playing ships, and they just and you just see them flying them back and forth. They're like,
dude, oh my god, the miniature sets are so freaking cool. I actually got to go see them in Seattle. There's a museum of like pop culture, and they have a sci-fi section. I got to see all of the old Star Trek stuff, but they have a lot of miniatures from Star Wars. And
I thought you were about to say you went to
I didn't get to go to see
Pinewood, and I'm like, wait, hold on, when did this happen?
They didn't like I didn't get to see like the full miniatures. I saw just a couple, and it's just like, dang, those are so cool. Though.
Yeah, just how they brought that world to life is just amazing, and just how Lucas just never gave up. Like, I mean, I didn't read it, but they made a comic of Lucas's original script, which was the Star Wars, and it's completely different.
Oh yeah,
like Luke was already old. Darth Vader, I don't think had any relation to him. He was just a general. And it's actually really cool. Han
Solo was a frog man.
Yeah, I think R3CPO was a woman. I think had like robot boobs.
Yeah, because C-3PO was based on the Metropolis arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of hope one day Lucas just kind of changes some names and just makes that into a movie. That's actually really cool. So, we actually did a commentary for A New Hope one time.
Yeah,
back in the day. But unfortunately, we did it in a giant garage.
So it was just really
with one microphone, and it's just, oh god, it was so bad. I tried listening to him, like, yeah, this is not going on air at all.
Never.
But it's kind of like, even though this almost kind of reinvigorated the hero's journey mold, because obviously it started back in the days of the Homer's Iliad and Odyssey was whatever. But when you look at but like even when we were in school in our English class, when we were learning about the hero's journey,
like the Greek stories, we would watch Star Wars.
Yeah, like our teacher made us let us watch Star Wars, and it was like, we could do this in school. Okay,
sure,
yeah, I can do this. I do this at home all the time. So it brought back the hero's journey, learning just the steps of how to write for a hero, I guess. And even just more, just looking at all the practical effects and just what they did. I mean, again, we have to watch the version that came out in 2010 or something.
Yeah,
but
here's a fun thing about that. I can't remember. It might be in England. There's a museum or archive of movies, just like the best movies of the last century, and the Star Wars trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, are on the list to be in that archive. They have episode 4, but they were like, you've got to give us what was released in theaters. And Lucas gave them special edition copies of 4, 5, and 6, and they're like, we're not putting these in the archive. We want the originals.
Ooh.
And he won't give them to them.
Man, Lucas is so petty. Like, and he's so like it's either my way or the highway, baby. It's like, dude, man,
God.
just stop. Like, just let things be. Don't. Oh my god, that drives me. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That. No, you're gonna take my special editions. No, we just want the edition. No, that was young Luke. This is old Lucas. This is mature Lucas. It's like, no, man, stop. That's hilarious. Oh god, that makes me mad. Kind of thing. I was like, no, those especially these three need to be archived as like the greatest movies of all time.
Right.
Not.
But anyway, so episode 4. I feel like I've talked about this one so much, maybe not on this podcast, of course, that like I don't
Just in
really know
life.
where to start. Yeah, just in life. Like episode 5 is my favorite, but episode 4 is what just started it, you know?
Oh yeah.
And there's just so much history that episode 4 sets up, and you're like, whoa, all this stuff that happened in the past. I want to know about that, and like how it's affected everything now, because like it starts with like the Empire is, going strong, and it's done so many horrible things, and like why are we fighting against the Empire? Oh, because they just killed everybody, and they're like horribly tyrannical, and like we have to go off of Obi-Wan saying, hey Luke, it's bad, so you should help,
Yeah, and then you kind of had that one line of, I don't like the Empire, I hate it, but I blah blah blah, and because he said he was going to the flight academy, right?
Yeah, he wanted to be like join the academy to become a rebel.
Oh, was it to become a rebel?
Yeah, like
Because they never specify, so I always assumed like
that's what Wedge did.
Yeah, so I just assumed like, oh, he's going to the academy. It's like, well, wait.
Because there was actually a deleted scene that's him.
Yeah, he meets up with Wedge. Yeah,
it's either Wedge or Vix.
No, it's Wedge.
Okay.
Because remember, that's when
or not Vix, Biggs.
It's Biggs. Yeah, you're
Biggs.
right. Yeah, it's Biggs. Because I remember there was that scene, because the line when he's yelling at Uncle Owen, like, oh, Biggs is right. I'm never going to get out of here.
Right.
That line comes from the deleted scene, even though you're just kind of like, wait. Who's Biggs? And then you meet like, oh, Caterpillar Mustache Man. Biggs Darklighter.
Yeah.
He has like the coolest name,
Right?
and then he
doesn't do anything.
Exactly.
But here's a fun bit of trivia. I'm a huge nerd, so I play a bunch of video games. So another video game thing. In Final Fantasy and just about any Final Fantasy-esque game that was made by the creators, like Square Enix, basically, the people that made Final Fantasy. So Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy, there's a couple other ones. One of their Easter eggs that you'd only really know if you're a Star Wars fan is in every single one of those games, they put in some side characters that you only ever meet like once in each of those games, and their names are Wedge and Vix.
Really?
And it's based off of Biggs and Wedge.
Huh.
That's literally it. They just show up all over the place, but it's just them paying homage to Star Wars.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, I never noticed that.
Yeah.
Also, some other trivia, because I'm a big Kurosawa fan. New Hope is essentially kind of is originally kind of came from Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress.
Right.
Now, The Hidden Fortress is not it's not Kurosawa's best or most well known, but it's still really cool. And he loved Kurosawa's film so much that Toshiro Mifune, who played usually the main samurai in all of Kurosawa's films and some of his non-samurai films, he wanted him to play Obi-Wan.
God, that would have been so good.
Or Darth Vader. And it's just like, man, that like
Toshiro Mifune as Obi-Wan would have been insane.
it would have been the best. I honestly I love Alec Guinness. He did a great job as Obi-Wan, but Toshiro Mifune, like an OG samurai, like who was he's a true descendant from samurais, and that's why he didn't want to do it, because he's all like, oh, I don't want to tarnish the name of the samurai, it was either that or it was because he just didn't want to learn English. He was like,
sure,
I'm like 40. I don't want to learn a new language just for a movie that's probably not going to work out.
If he did though,
it would have been great.
Oh man,
that means unfortunately we wouldn't have had Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. We probably would have had oh my God, what's his name? I think he was in I know he was in The Wolverine. And then he was also in The Last Samurai. It's like Kinsei or something.
I cannot remember for the life of me.
Neither can I, but all I know is like it would have been a really cool. Also you'd also be bringing in a strong Asian character, like an Asian role.
Back in like the 70s and 80s when that wasn't a huge thing in American film. Like,
oh no, not at all.
But anyway, so yeah, there was that, and the music was just
it's Hiroyuki Sanada.
Right.
He's the only one that I can see that kind of has the born around the same time, and then could play as a young Obi-Wan in the prequels.
That would have been pretty.
Oh,
cool.
that'd have been so cool.
But yeah, like I don't know, the movie just sets up
everything.
It sets up like what the societal structure of this space universe is, how people act around each other. And one of the cool things, in my opinion, is it starts in this backwater. It's not just a farm boy thing. It's like literally a backwater. Everyone around here is like 20 years behind the curve.
Oh, yeah.
And like they're all like junkers and thieves and just scum. And this kid is just living on a planet with them.
Yeah.
And
shooting womp rats.
Shooting womp rats like a little like sadist.
And then, once you find out what a womp rat looks like in the old Super Nintendo game, oh my god, they're monsters.
Scary. Like granted, the Super Nintendo game blew them up. They're like a foot long.
Yeah.
They're not like womp rats in the Super Nintendo game are the size of the alien from the Aliens.
And they're all
like those things are huge.
And they're green. It's like,
and they jump around, and you have to fight the womp rat mother at one point. Like holy crap!
It's like you're not just shooting them. You're protecting your land. You're protecting people. Like those things are. The sound effects. Like
yeah.
Oh god, those things are terrifying.
But yeah. So like, where was I going?
Oh, you're talking about how it was a backwater.
Yeah, and like to have seen that movie for the first time, and to go like, oh man, all these people are living on the they're all like highly advanced and stuff like that, and then you realize they're not the most highly advanced.
No.
When you see the Death Star, and then also when they blow up Alderaan, you never actually see what's on Alderaan.
No.
I imagine Alderaan looks kind of like Naboo. But the architecture is just more like Grecian, I imagine. Yeah. And this Alderaan was like one of the most civilized planets.
Yeah, it was a neutral planet. Yeah, it didn't have any it wasn't associated with rebellion. It wasn't associated with the Empire. It was
even
just
though it was totally funding the rebellion.
Oh, definitely, and that's essentially why they blew it up. Because if you read Lost Stars, which was they call it a YA novel, but it's so much better than any kind of YA. They pretty much said like it had weapons of mass destruction on it. It's like, oh my god, did you just pull an Iraq on it? Like, holy crap.
So they nuke the heck out of and destroy Alderaan, and Alderaan was like what would have been like space utopia.
Yeah, it's what everyone strives to be.
But we never see it. It's just destroyed.
It's funny that the two siblings, Leia got to go to like the top,
right?
As in where Luke went to the the bottom.
Bail Organa's just like, you'll take the girl. What about the boy? No.
Well, they said they can't keep them together.
Keep both, because if one of them gets taken, then you'll have the other
just
one.
give Luke to the Emperor. Jesus, at least you'd probably have a better life than
I know, right?
Living in a desert.
All right, so,
but also just real quick, New Hope didn't just launch Star Wars. It launched like everything for
sci-fi.
Sci-fi in general. Like so many, just like how
like The Last Starfighter and stuff like that. Oh, man.
And just if you look at just film in general, like I know we bring up Kurosawa a lot, but Kurosawa helped launch the big three at the time, which was Lucas, Spielberg, and oh man, who did The Godfather?
Oh frick, I can't remember.
I know it starts with a C. That's Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola.
Right.
So that launched those three, and then just looking at what Spielberg has made and what Lucas has made and Coppola, like those once again launched more ships. So it's just like this.
Oh no! Mic down, need backup.
That terrified me. Knocked my mic off the stand. But yeah, like those films launched even more people making films, and just kind of like this.
Yeah, it was a domino effect of filmmaking. Like it was like a renaissance almost because of this. Yeah, no, it's totally like it's why we need innovative filmmaking and stuff like that. We need to take leaps and bounds because if you don't, we're just gonna be stagnant. Granted, we haven't like made very many leaps and bounds since then, but I mean, you know, I'm sure something's gonna happen at some point. We'll have another filmic renaissance. Maybe when holograms become a thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So we're gonna jump to number 5.
Yep.
Probably the best Star Wars, I guess people will say.
Yeah, in my opinion, it is the epitome of Star Wars.
Yeah, I will say it's the most like from beginning to end. It's the most most solid.
It's full.
Yeah, like there's
not really a wasted moment in the entire film.
No, not at all. Even there's no special edition. Like there's no big edit. Maybe I think
there's a couple little things.
They added windows to Sky City or whatever.
Yeah, Cloud City.
And
they added the cloud cars.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. They added a few things. Honestly, I don't mind the cloud cars,
but not enough to be like. It's not like the most easily seen in New Hope, where you're just like, oh god, I don't want to look at it anymore. It's like, oh yeah, they had windows. Cool.
Yeah.
I always bring this up, but it's the final fight, or not? Yeah, it's the final fight between Luke and Vader. Luke does something and that impresses Vader, and Vader's like, ooh,
ObiWan has taught you well.
He's like, yeah, I'm full of surprises. The next scene is Luke on his back, flailing. Like, no, get away from me. So I'm assuming there was a cut. Like, I think there might have been a scene that was there before.
Right.
Because it was literally just like, oh, I'm full of surprises.
It just gets knocked, trips backwards.
Yeah, it's like, if I was Vader, I was like, oh, that's your surprise? Okay, cool. And let's see, this is our first introduction to Boba Fett.
Right?
No. Episode 4, technically.
Yeah, only in the special edition.
Yeah, you just see him do like
he's in the background talking to the Jabba the Hutt in that extra scene that has no meaning, where Jabba the Hutt talks to Han. Yeah. And the whole thing, I hated that scene because it literally reiterates every single thing that he tells Greedo. Because they cut the Jabba the Hutt talking to Lando or talking to Han scene because they didn't have the effects to make Jabba the Hutt look good. So they did the Greedo scene. Yeah. Instead, because Greedo would be able to tell the audience everything that Jabba the Hutt would, and Han also gets to kill him.
Oh God, you're right. That scene makes absolutely no sense now. Like, what was the freaking point of anything that happened?
Yeah.
Like,
it's just to show off Jabba the Hutt and Boba Fett and like a couple other things.
You're not gonna take me to Jabba. Oh, hi Jabba. I didn't know you were here.
Right?
And then like they shot 3 scenes of that. They shot the scene with the guy wearing the fur coat. They shot the really bad animation scene where it looked like Jabba's eyes were about to pop out.
Right?
And then they shot the CGI version, which Jabba's size is so
wrong.
Yeah, like he's the same size as Han.
Yeah, he's so small in that.
It's not like he grew. I feel like Jabba's already at like his peak
slug form.
Yeah, so I don't think he just like, oh yeah, I just smoked hookah and ate little worm things, so now I just grew 3 times my size.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah. But anyway, so technically, this should be the first time we see Boba Fett.
Because I love this scene when he in the episode 4, he just walks up and goes, "I'll see you guys in the next movie," and just walks away like, "Okay, bye, Boba Fett."
Yeah. So the first time we really see him is when Darth Vader gets all the bounty hunters together.
Which is a scene I like, but I don't like the payoff. Because at first, you're like, oh, all these bounty hunters? And that's all you're going to see of them.
I know, that's true. But the thing is, they all look so varied. Like, the thing about what this scene did is it spawned an entire, like, fiction... This really great storytelling about each of the bounty hunters.
Right.
Every single one of those bounty hunters gets a really great storyline that the extended universe, so it's not canon anymore, developed for them. And the reason Boba Fett stood out amongst all of them, though, was one line. Boba Fett doesn't say anything except for one line the entire time. After all of the bounty hunters are briefed on what they need to do and how they need to do it, Darth Vader stops at Boba Fett, points at him, and goes, "No disintegrations." And Boba Fett just goes, "As you wish." And
Fine.
and everyone just like stopped and goes, "Wait a minute. Vader didn't do some weird force choke thing on that guy. Vader's dealt with this guy before. This guy has disintegrated bounties before."
Yeah.
And he's not afraid to tell Vader, "All right, man, whatever you say," instead of "Yes, sir," or something like that. He's just like, "All right."
Because in the new Star Wars comic that came out once, after The Force Awakens, in between 4 and 5, when Vader found out there was a Skywalker, again, he didn't know this was his son or not. He hired Boba Fett to find Luke. And then I don't know, I stopped reading. It just became I hate stories in between 4 and 5. There's so many stories between 4 and 5, and you're just kind of like, all right, I need some dates and like times because there's a lot happening. And then,
that's one of the problems with all of the comics and stuff like that, and the books is these characters never stop doing stuff. Like they're always doing things. It's similar to like DC and Marvel comics.
Oh yeah.
Like when they have like Spider-Man in like 5 separate comics that come out in the same week, I'm like, did he just like jump around from story to story, or do these take place like months apart from each other? How are we supposed to know?
Like, do they have the same system as us? Is it 12 months in a year, or is it like...
Yeah, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, but, so yeah, like, I hate it because Luke can't get strong in between 4 and 5.
Right.
Because he was barely able to pull the lightsaber out of the ice, so he can't get any stronger with the Force. When you watch him fight Vader, he's not really good with a lightsaber because, once again, Yoda only taught him how to use the Force, so he can't really train with the lightsaber because, well, he can train, but he can't see him really improve.
Yeah, he can't be better than what we see him at in 5.
The beginning of 5, yeah. But if they wanted to do a story between 5 and 6, because
that's a great spot for it, because Luke becomes a freaking gray Jedi essentially, or a dark Jedi almost, between 4 and 5 or 5 and 6.
And I still believe that Luke was stronger than Vader at the very beginning of Return of the Jedi. I think he was, because again, throughout the entire movie, Luke's just like, I'm in a Sarlacc pit. All right, boom. Yeah, I'm not worried. Oh, you're about to push me, or not the Sarlacc pit, the Rancor pit. Yeah. He's like, okay, boom, crushed it.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. The tentacle butthole of the desert. Whatever. Yeah, like, he's calm throughout the entire time. You're like, he
becomes the raging badass that we wanted him to be from 4. Like, he actually is a progression. In 4, he's just this stupid whiny kid. Episode 5, he's still pretty whiny, but he's getting power. We can see that he's got power. He can do stuff. Like, even though he gets his butt handed to him by Vader, he still holds his own for a little while. And then episode 6, he's just like, all right, here we go. Okay.
Holy crap! That was probably oh man, it's echoing really bad. Did you just do a DJ moment like Rick,
here we go?
Oh wow, that's really cool.
It's echoing horribly. All right.
Well, I think it's just starting to backlash a little bit, but because we've been going on for a while, I don't think it shouldn't affect. I think it's just in the headphones. Anyways, so going back. Episode 5, yeah. The only problem I had with it was just the lack of the bounty hunters, because that was such a cool scene,
right?
And I would have loved to have seen like even if it was just like on the Star Destroyer,
them talking. Or
no, not even just them talking. You see Boba Fett walking down the hallway, and you just see all the bounty hunters dead. Like, it was just like. oh yeah, competition. Yeah, nah, you guys aren't leaving. It's like that'd have been
Actually,
really
he
cool.
does. He kind of does that a little bit. So, here's some fun backstory for each of the bounty hunters in case you didn't already know them. We have Dengar, who's the dude that has the cloth over his eyes.
Yeah.
He got that because he was in a speeder bike race with Han Solo, and he gets knocked into a bunch of like crystals and rips up his face. So he's got a. So that's actually why he's there, because he wants to get Han back for that.
That's such an interesting. Oh my god, that's such an interesting backstory.
Forloom and Zuckuss are the bug-looking dudes. Zuckuss is the one that it's a organic bug. Forloom is his like helper droid bug. They're actually good guys, but they're bounty hunters. But like, so at one point in the EU, they don't. I don't think they do it any longer in the canon universe. After they actually came to Darth Vader after they had actually saved a bunch of rebels on Hoth. When the transports tried to escape, the first transport got shot down by a Death Star, and Forloom and Zuckuss actually rescued a bunch of dying rebels that were on that transport. And then we're trying to use the Empire to get to the Rebel High Command, essentially. It was some weird convoluted thing like that. I don't quite remember it. Then IG-88 is just a death bot. IG-88 does just want to like get money and whatever and stuff like that. But IG-88's story is funny because IG-88 put a tracker on Boba Fett's ship and actually attached his ship, which is like a little pod, to the back of Boba Fett's ship, Slave 1, because he knew Boba Fett would find them. And then Boba Fett, when he gets to Cloud City, confronts IG-88 because he figures out he tracked him and kills him. Wow. And so in the scene where the weird little dudes are trying to scrap C-3PO, you can see IG-88's corpse, just this wrecked IG-88 robot in a corner.
Yeah.
And that's why that's there.
Huh.
Bosk and Boba Fett work together a lot, even though they don't really like each other a whole lot. And so they kind of like a mutual understanding between each other. And Bosk is the lizard dude. He's a Trandoshan. And Trandoshans are really well known for the fact that they hunt and kill Wookiees a lot. And so
a lot of the bounty hunters had some kind of like.
All of them had a backstory. They all had
or at least a connection to like.
Or a connection to why they were there.
Yeah. Interesting.
And then Boba Fett is Boba Fett.
Boba Fett's just Boba Fett. Well, now that we know Vader hired Boba Fett before, and I guess just like, even though you didn't bring me Skywalker, maybe you could bring me his friends too.
Yeah. And that's also like before even knowing any of the extended universe stuff or the canon extended universe stuff. That was why people clamored for more Boba Fett so much, was because we have literally the first he's the first character we've ever met, except for maybe Tarkin, who could talk on Vader's level.
Oh yeah.
Because the Emperor is above Vader's level, and then Tarkin and Vader are on the same level, and yet Boba Fett is right there, just random bounty hunter that's not actually part of the Empire, and he's able to say to Vader, "Fine, whatever, man,"
and even talk back to him when then they put him into the. He's not good. He's not good to me dead.
He's not good to me dead.
If that was anyone else, Vader would have been like.
But like he doesn't to this guy, because this guy is such a royal bamf that Vader can't do that to him.
Right.
So that's why people liked him so much, was because he seemed like he was this crazy cool dude. And then episode 6 happened.
Yeah. But before we get to episode 6, let's also talk about the fact that no one knew this movie was coming until the first trailer, or maybe in a magazine, because we probably find out about this 79 maybe, because it came out in 80.
Right.
So probably 79, maybe 78. 79. They probably heard about like a trailer or whatever. And because again, when you watch episode 4, it ends perfect. It ends like there's no.
It's just like, oh, cool, we blew up the super weapon.
Yeah, because originally they didn't have that scene where you see Vader, his things spinning out and then he just flies off. Mm-hmm. It's just gone.
Everything blows up.
Yeah.
Did Vader just blow up with them?
Yeah. Even though when you watch it, like, wait, are we not going to talk about the Force again? The Force was actually kind of interesting. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, well, we're all happy, yay! And then the movie ends, and they're like, oh, that was a good time at the movie theater. wait, there's a second one coming out? Oh my god! And then,
God, I wish I could have seen it when it came out.
I wish I would have seen
Hmm.
the big reveal, the Luke, I am your father. Like, I want to know what it's like watching, because I feel like maybe now, just because of how film fans are, we probably would have figured out, like, Vader seems really into Luke right now. It's like trying to figure out, like, maybe we would have picked up on it. But man, can you imagine being in that theater in 1980, just being like,
no, I am your father. Just like everyone just like gasps as one unit. It's like what? Just their faces melt from like the sheer.
And everyone feels like Luke, just like
overload.
That's impossible. Like you're just like, no, search your feelings. You know it to be true. You're just like.
Every once in a while, just to like, try to get that feeling again, I'll watch kids' reactions to it.
Yes.
Like 7-year-olds that have just seen episode 4 and are just like, oh man, Vader's so big and scary. And then they see episode 5 and they get to that scene and just go, oh. And I'm just like, yes.
See, I always pose this question to people, like, what would you rather have? The new Star Wars movies that are coming out, good or bad, whatever. Or would you rather that after you watch the last scene of episode 6, you completely forget the plot of Star Wars and you get to watch it and you rewatch it again?
Man.
I
think I'd just be like in like a dark cave watching it on repeat over and over
and
again.
the thing is after you watch it, or maybe it is once you start the movie over again, then you forget. Like, so after you're done, you can still talk to people about it, but once you start it again, your mind like wipes and you're just like,
right,
what is this? But if you watch it today, you're like, these graphics are horrible, blah blah, like, oh, this is so bad.
Right.
But when it comes to Star Wars, you're just like we can watch Star Wars and we don't care about the graphics because we're like, this was 77, man. You don't understand. They were walking around with sticks and strings, man. Like, you don't get it.
Practical effects.
But so yeah, episode 5 once again was also the introduction to Yoda, which started to expand the idea of what the Jedi were in the Force. Because once again, I don't know, like, for me, Obi-Wan was kind of like the Dumbledore of this series. They said he was a great teacher, but in reality, didn't really teach him crap. Like,
not really.
Like, for Anakin, Obi-Wan taught him a lot. All Obi-Wan really did for Luke was just give him a whole bunch of exposition.
Yeah, and it's like, go do this thing.
Go do this thing.
I'm done.
You're gonna go to Dagobah. You're gonna train with a guy named Yoda. By the way, he's short, green, and has pointy ears. You might need to know that when you go find him in a swamp. Yeah. So, you know how planets are really big.
I feel like it's a joke. It was just like Obi-Wan's like,
I'm gonna
find Yoda. Oh man, this is gonna be good.
It's and once you get there, you're like, it's a swamp, a giant swamp planet. Am I supposed to just ride around on my X-wing? The fact that I landed next to his house was just pure luck or the Force, I guess. But do you think Yoda brought him down?
That'd be interesting if Yoda brought him safely into the swamp.
Safely? He crashed his whole planet into a swamp. Or maybe that was the point, to teach him how to
bring it back out.
But he was the one who brought.
Yoda was the one.
Yeah, so maybe he was just like,
it's the teach him. That's all.
Maybe he was just like, oh, X-wing.
Just like, come to me.
He had dementia, just like, oh no, I'm found. Just crashing it.
Well, I do believe that Luke couldn't have landed that X-wing safely, no matter what he did.
No, not at all.
There was very little he could have done.
I mean, that was the whole point. I think they said in episode 3, like, why he went to Dagobah was like,
it's very hard for anyone to like land
because it's all trees and muck and whatever, and it's also because it's all vegetation, so it's very strong in the Force or whatever.
Honestly, like, I loved Yoda's exposition, like his speech that he has when Luke tries to like, that's probably right up there as my favorite part in that entire movie was when Luke's like, this is impossible, and then Yoda goes, like, on that like 5-minute long rant. And yeah, he goes on this 5-minute long rant about what the Force is and what it means, and then Luke is like, "You work the impossible," and then slinks off, and then Yoda just stops there for a second, and then he looks up at anything and everything at the same time. And I want to find a really high def image cap of that because it's so serene.
Yeah.
You just have this little dude in the middle of a beam of light in this swamp forest, looking up into space, I guess, looking
to the
into the ether. And then after that, he just kind of takes a deep breath and lifts the freaking X-wing.
I love that scene because, like you said, when Luke like, "You want the impossible," and he storms off. He walks like 5 feet and just sits.
You're like, sits down, facing away from him, just like playing with a stick.
Like, dude, that's not a storm off. Is when you leave the scene, not just I'm gonna walk to the back and sit down. Like, but yeah, you're right. That like when Yoda just like looks down, and then just like I feel like he should. I feel like he should have been like this. He should have been like this. As he was flowing, it just went. and like just flicks Luke off while he puts the X-wing down. Like. Right. Yeah, I just did that. Like, that's impossible. Or what was he saying?
Like, he just said, "I don't believe it," and then he goes, "In fact,
that's why you fail." And then it cuts, and then the scene
cuts immediately back to the the Star Destroyer.
You're like, wait, like, holy crap! You just cut on that?
Yeah, like God, that's the pacing of that movie is like par none.
Yeah,
like there is no. There hasn't been a movie in ages, I feel, that is paced as well as Episode 5.
I agree.
And it's Lucas's vision, but it wasn't Lucas that directed Episode 5.
It was Kushner, Ivan Kushner, right?
Yeah. And
maybe not Ivan, but I know his last name was Kushner.
Yeah. But the thing is, they still used Lucas's ideas in order to do it. So all of the cuts were the Akira Kurosawa cuts that Lucas had introduced. Yeah. And so I'm pretty sure the cut from him going, that is why you fail, is a diagonal. It starts in the bottom left corner and goes up to the top right corner.
Yeah.
It's like no one had seen cuts like, no American had seen cuts like that before.
Yeah.
And so just the abruptness, but yet the fittingness of it. It's just like.
Essentially, it's kind of like when you watch a play, and when they change scenes, they drop the curtain, they drop the curtain and they raise it up. Essentially, it's kind of like a symbolic version of that. But yeah, you're right. Lucas was, even though it's directed by Kushner, Lucas was like there. I feel like he had a director seat right behind Kushner, just just watching him.
I don't really think you should Yoda should be like this huge guy that's like, is this ancient, big master, and he's got like big muscles and stuff.
Big muscles.
George, no, we're just gonna make him a little green dude. Oh, but I really George, you're not the director this time.
You really think? God, who was the puppeteer on that one?
It was either, I think it was Frank Oz. Frank Oz was the
voice. I thought it was the guy who did all the Muppets. Jim.
Was it Jim Henson?
I think so. Jim Henson. I think he did.
It might have been Jim Henson, but it was definitely Frank Oz. It was.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. It's like, you think Jim Henson's gonna try to control a big muscular puppet? Like, no, he's gonna. He's gonna stick his hand up.
Here's something really awesome about that entire set. In order to accomplish using a puppet on that set. It was built 5 feet off the ground, and the entire Dagobah set was about like less than 100 feet by 100 feet square, and they just had to make sure that the camera angles didn't let anyone see the warehouse they were in, and they had little slits in the ground that were hidden by all the fog that Yoda, the dude could have his hand up in Yoda's business, like walking around on the set.
Yeah.
And so it was a massive undertaking in order to make it so that they could have a Muppet on that set. They literally made a Muppet set to make Star Wars.
I'm telling you guys, almost just as interesting as Star Wars, the making of Star Wars is like just as interesting as the actual series. Especially when it comes to the original trilogy, because I feel like when you watch the making of the prequels, you're just kind of like, that's a dumb idea, and I'm not even in the business, and I can tell you that's a dumb idea.
Right.
But when you watch the originals, you're just like, magic. That's just how magic is just done. So I think from there we'll go on to episode 6, and then we'll end it there because we're past an hour and a half. So let's talk about episode 6, and episode 6 has a lot of issues.
It's got a lot of good, but it's also got a lot of bad.
Now, I agree with you that episode 5 is the best, but my favorite is episode 6, only because because I'm someone who likes character development.
Sure.
This is the epitome of character development because when Luke shows up, he's like, hey, you know that valve? Like, I'm at 10 right now. I'm at my strongest.
Yeah, I'm at max.
I've maxed out my character. I'm level 100. My strength, my stamina, my magic is all at 100. So let's do this.
He just grinded
yes,
levels
that's
for like
exactly
6 years.
That's
like
exactly
between 5 and 6, he just grinded his levels because he realized that he episode 5 was that boss fight in some RPGs that's a mandatory boss fight that you're supposed to lose.
Yeah.
Like your character loses, but the game keeps going. But there's a chance you can win that fight if you're a high enough level. And he realized, I should have been a higher level when I went up against that boss. So we just grinded levels.
This is essentially if you were playing Skyrim and you go by what's the evil dragon Alduin. You go battle Alduin after you get to like level 100. You're like, I'm not supposed to fight you when I'm like in my 20s or 30s. I'm gonna wait till I get to 100. So I just so it's just
crash him.
Yeah. So that's essentially what Luke did because when Luke shows up, he's just like, all right, you know what? R2, C-3PO, go talk to Jabba. That work? All right, Leia, Chewie, go in there. You guys screwed up?
Everyone
fine, I'll go in there. Walks in. Oh, hi, Pigman.
Right?
He force chokes.
He force chokes some Gamorrean guards.
And if you don't know,
that's a dark power.
That's a dark force power, just like it is like using the lightning. Now, if you started using the lightning, you're like, okay.
Pretty sure Luke's pretty far gone.
Yeah, like
no, Luke. That's one I love so much about it is Luke is a dark Jedi.
Yeah.
He's not a. But that's one of the things is he wasn't trained by. He was trained by Yoda and a bit by ObiWan, who were light Jedi, but he didn't get enough training from them, so he probably sought his own training.
Yeah.
Between 5 and 6.
Which is why we need to get something like. Give me a book about Luke between 5 and 6. Like, please, like I'm tired of 4 and 5. I don't care about what happened that time.
Like the development.
Yeah, because nothing.
Care about that. We care about him getting to like high power.
Because we don't know how strong he really is. We'll find out this week when we watch The Last Jedi. Mm-hmm. But like at the end of 6, his power is still like up in the air. Like he
could be even stronger than what we see in 6.
Yeah, because
like he beats the dogs not out of Darth Vader, but then decides that he doesn't want to fight anymore.
And the whole time he's just really the whole fight's just kind of like, come on, Dad, don't make me do this. My sister? Okay, now I'm mad. And then he cuts his arm off. Like you're like, how strong is Luke? Like, and then essentially he kind of lets the Emperor just. Well, also the Emperor is also ridiculously strong, but he could have been like, all right, Dad, I'm letting him shock me so you can snap out of it, but this is starting to hurt.
Right. So when I watch episode 6 now, I basically after Tatooine, I start skipping scenes.
Oh really?
Because I hate Endor.
Yeah, Endor. The bikes, the motorcycle scene was fun, but yeah.
Literally, I just when I get to that point. Because like I mean I've seen the whole movie through like 5 times, so like I've seen it.
Yeah,
I know exactly. What
You're not missing anything.
I'm not missing anything. I just go straight to the space fights and Luke on the Death Star.
Yeah,
that's all I watch from that point on. And I gotta say, of any of the what you call them Star Wars, any of them, my favorite scene of all time is when Darth Vader and Luke have that final bout where that like really deep music comes on and like Luke's like no and like beats Darth Vader back onto the bridge and then just hacks at him until his arm comes off.
And
that makes me cry.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is like while Vader's talking, It's just this. You don't know where Luke is, but he's like in this corner, and you just see there's like a beam of light just on his eyes, and you just see it like you can see
He's trying to keep himself focused.
yeah, and he feels anger rising, which I'm kind of like. So Vader was reading his mind about his sister, and because he keeps saying, "Wow, Obi-Wan taught you well." It's like Obi-Wan taught me nothing. He said my father and Vader were two different people. Didn't really go into what the Force was. And it's like, no, Yoda. And I was kind of waiting for that scene where Vader's just like, wait, Yoda's alive? Wait, what? Emperor, did you hear that? Yoda's alive. And it's like, I wanted that scene. Like,
it'd be interesting if, because I don't have enough of the extended canon from around that time. What if Obi-Wan, his Force Ghost was still just regularly visiting Luke and was just like teaching him not like how to fight, but just like control and stuff like that.
I think his Force Ghost kept coming back and messing with Vader.
That would be funny.
That would be great.
Actually, it was I think it's called Star Wars Legends. It was a book. A comic book that was just like random non-canon stories, but one of them would be hilarious if it was true. After episode 4, like right after the Death Star blows up and Vader's TIE fighter is floating in space, Obi-Wan's ghost visits him and just sits there talking to him and making fun of him the entire time.
So,
it's so funny.
How you doing?
Excuse me, that's language there, but yeah.
How are you doing? Like, not now, Obi-Wan. You just lost in space. Are you lost in space?
Lost in space?
Just do a bunch of space references.
Oh no.
So I just wanted to point this out. So if you are a fan of the Clone Wars and Rebels, there's that clone who was able to kind of he was able to defect from Order 66, and he was able to grow up and wasn't executed like the other clones. He just he aged and whatever. A fan pointed out that in Return of the Jedi there was a rebel that had a thick white beard, and they were just like, oh, is that Rex? And then Pablo Hidalgo, who runs canon, his job at Lucasfilm is making sure all the canon stays intact. So a fan was like, hey, is that Rex? And the guy was just, and Pablo Hidalgo was just like, sure. He was just like. Yeah. I mean, I never thought about it, but why not? And it's just like, okay, so Rex makes it all the way to the end. Because if you don't know, Rebels takes place in between 3 and 4, and he's already old, so that means he's
like, and he's a clone.
Yeah, he's a clone.
Age somewhat faster than normal humans.
Yeah.
So he's probably pretty ancient at that point.
So I just wanted to bring that up because we were talking about you brought up Endor, and I just remember oh yeah, Rex is in that scene. I mean, again, this is just on Twitter. I think
sure.
Paulo Dog was just like,
if you want it to be it.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean,
but at the same time, yeah,
it's not like we're going to do a movie about the old bearded man in Star Wars in Episode 6. He's probably just an extra, literally just an extra guy who's just like. Want to be in Star Wars? Do you mind shaving the beard? I can't. All right, no problem.
Right,
whatever. So yeah, Episode 6. And I guess we haven't really talked about these characters, Han, Luke, and Chewie. No, Han, Leia, and Chewie. We haven't really mentioned them, and they're kind of we're kind of sticking to the Jedi side, but
yeah.
Harrison Ford obviously being a very important part, especially in our family, since we love Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and your brother looks
just like
suspiciously a lot like Harrison Ford.
Freaking Han Solo actually had a pretty good amount of character development.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because in Episode 4, he's just the scoundrel. I don't really care about anything but the money. And then he has a bit of a change of heart.
Yeah.
And he saves them. And then, as actually my older brother Zane pointed out, Episode 5 is about failure. The entire movie is about the failure of the main characters to achieve their goals. And one of them was the failure of everyone to save Han, who had selflessly saved them and just needed any one of them to save him. And they all fail him.
Yeah. I mean, let's see. They failed at the Battle of God, what's the
Bespin?
No,
Or
what was the
Hoth?
Hoth? Yeah, I kept thinking Yavin. They failed there. Han and Chewie just can't fix the Falcon, no matter
No matter how hard they
no matter
try.
what they do. They keep failing at that. Luke failed to finish his training with Yoda. Yeah, you're right. That movie is just literally just all failure.
And that's why it's so cool too, is because in the hero's journey we have the call to the
Call to
to
action.
action, and then we in the very middle, more towards the end, but kind of in the middle, we have the abyss, which is the lowest point for the hero and his crew, and then the ending is the rise above and the completion of the task, the victory over the the hardship, and episode 5 is just the abyss. Every part of episode 5 is the abyss.
It's like the hero's journey. So it's like, here's the hero's journey for New Hope. Here's the new hero's journey for the Return of the Jedi. There's Empire Strikes Back.
It's just a cavern.
It's just Empire Strikes Back. It's just
a pit.
all. Oh, that's hilarious. I've never thought about that, but yeah, you're right. So yeah, we don't see much character development for Leia. You just see her more lighten up.
Yeah, I feel like Leia's just kind of always been a bad mofo the entire time.
But
like,
all she does is like kind of slowly lighten up towards Han. I think that's kind of her character development, I guess. Even though I think there might have just been some deleted scenes in Return of the Jedi, but the conversation between Leia and Luke was really confusing because he was just like, "Do you remember your mother, your real mother?" And it's like
she says, yeah.
He's like,
she was beautiful.
It's like, time out. Did we ever establish that she was adopted? Like she never said like, oh yeah, I'm the adopted daughter of Bill Organa and blah 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 blah. Like we never knew that. So it's like, wait, her real mother's just her mother. Like that'd have been it. So a lot of that was kind of weird. I kind of wish. I mean, again, I feel like there are some parts of Star Wars were kind of just written as Lucas was going along.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I kind of wish there was kind of like some. Well, no, never mind. I take that back. Luke did kind of he connected Leia through the Force in the end of 5.
Right.
So because another part was just like, how would you have always known? Like you would need the Force to know, but I guess she kind of touched on the Force at the very end of 5.
Yeah,
so
that's how they save Luke.
I let that one slide. What else in episode? Oh, we didn't talk about Boba Fett's death.
Oh.
Yeah, well, let's go back to that and we'll.
I hate it so much because
Let's talk about that. I hate it so
I
much.
hate it so much. I mean, like in the old EU, he doesn't die there.
Yeah.
He uses a thermal detonator to get the Sarlacc pit monster to release him, and he flies out. He dumps his Mandalorian armor because it's almost entirely melted at some, I don't know, scrapper place, and then he escapes essentially.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing is, in the EU, it causes a whole different storyline where when Han dies in the EU, he dies in a fist fight with Boba Fett when they're like 80. So obviously that's not going to happen because, we don't have Han anymore. And we don't really know if they've even... I know, right? Just two old dudes just decking it out. And we just don't know if they're ever going to really establish that he's back, even though Boba Fett is a fan favorite.
Yeah.
He's hugely a fan favorite. He's such a fan favorite that whenever they make Star Wars merch, there's almost always Boba Fett merch.
Of course. He's the most distinguished. And also I think it's just because like Mandalorian armor is so cool.
Dope.
Like it's really cool.
Literally the Stormtrooper armor is based off of Mandalorian armor.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
So another thing I just didn't like about Boba Fett's death is like when you see Luke fighting other people in the on the Sky Bridge, all you see is like you just see
Him in the background flailing.
and you're just kind of like, man,
Seriously. Yeah, like thanks George for taking this character that you knew everyone loved and just going, yeah, we're gonna let him die like a chump. And this is how I imagine it. Oh, hey guys, how's it going? Oh, it's great, George. We're ready to show the scene with Boba Fett. What do you want us to do? Oh, we're gonna have Boba Fett try to fly over to where